anyone who's carving their own path, there's not a manual, there's no training guide or anything like that. You're doing things by hopefully finding a mentor, hopefully finding patterns and data of other people that have done things. But at the end of the day, like, everything's different. You're totally carving your own path, and there's an element of luck to absolutely everything. So it's interesting to see, like, what are some of those key lessons that you would teach someone else? Like, what are things that are extremely valuable to you now that you're like, man, this is something that someone else should know?
My dad taught me a lot about dealing with people and being the head of a company, or like, he has a whole bunch of stories, which would be great. One of my favorite ones is that he was at Ocean Pacific, I think it was. Big, huge company, OP, if people remember, in the 80s. And when he got promoted to president, he was all excited and whatever it is. And like, literally the first day, the owner walks into his room and goes, "Hey, good morning. How's it feel to be
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Who Cares podcast. I'm your host, Jay O'Brien, with my co-host,
Jeff Jackel? This is a different one. Wait, who cares? You do. That's the real answer here, is that you care. We're going to find out.
I've been getting a lot of people that are saying, "Hey, dude, you have a podcast." I'm like, that's not a compliment.
Just stating a fact.
That's it. They just stop right there. You know, it's like, "Hey, dude, I keep seeing your podcast."
Nothing else. There's no next.
Nothing after that.
Whoever speaks
loud
first.
And clear.
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
Whoever speaks first after that. That was like, wasn't there something a couple days ago where I said something about like my shirt or something that I had on? You're like, "Oh, I didn't say that. Just said, hey, you got that on today." I was like, "Well, I thought you said you liked it." And I thought back.
Did I?
No, you didn't say that.
No, just trying to get my footing before we get started here.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
And this could be the last podcast that I record prior to owning a human. Hey, I bought her fair and square.
That's fair. You did in a lot of ways.
So while most people, I think, here's a question for you. Let's say that you're sitting on the John.
Wow.
And you got your phone with you, just because who doesn't?
Of course. Now, wait, I don't know if this matters. Am I home? Am I at work? Am I in a public place? Where am I?
Ooh.
Because I have some, I don't know how vulnerable we're going to be, but I've got some, there's differences, major differences.
Okay, let's start with home.
Okay.
Even though I feel like that's a dangerous place to start.
I don't know, start. And also, by the way, you don't have the young kids yet, but when you're doing that business at home with little kids, there's an entirely different reason. You're just staying in there. You're staying for a while. You're setting up shop.
Here's my question.
Yeah.
So you sit on the John, you got your phone. What's the first app you open up?
Okay, so then it depends. There's a lot of stuff, and I know I'm too detailed of a person.
Yeah.
But
Don't just, it depends. There's a muscle memory thing. Someone grabs their phone, boom, they hit something. I see it all the time. Not on the John. but like,
I'm looking at everybody.
But like, I'll see,
like, what's my go-to waste time app? Is that the question?
I'm not even saying you're wasting time. What I'm saying is, like, yes, there's a specific setting that I've just given you, but like, I'll be at dinner with a friend or something, and if like, let's say an urgent text message comes up, or like whatever reason, if I'm interrupted, I'm no longer engaged in this conversation for a second, instantly the other person's picking up their phone instantly.
Okay.
And there's a muscle memory to open something.
Whatever that is.
Open something.
My guess is for most people it's social media. For me, if it's on the John, if it's not on a work day, it probably is either Instagram or YouTube. I would guess if it's on a weekday, middle of the day, I literally, will be on Slack or whatever in that restroom.
Okay, so if
there's sports on, that's for sure. Like let's say that like this weekend, got the PGA Championship. When I'm at home and I'm setting up camp and trying to like buy some time and not be hounded by children,
that's a whole other thing. I never watched a full blown movie on the John, but
I haven't either. But PGA Championship, yeah, I'll watch whatever I can in there.
So your knee jerk reaction is YouTube or Instagram?
I mean, my usage of those things I think is probably different than most people. So like right now, if you looked at my algorithm for Instagram, all it's going to show you is a bunch of tennis tutorials. I literally won't see anything from my friends. It's all just like people that I follow that are teaching me fundamentals of tennis because that's what I'm like deeply into right now.
Sure, you can see all kinds of stuff. You can educate yourself.
I think this
I need an iPad to get smarter.
I think this might be illustrating how out of touch you are with social media in 2025.
I think it's how much you're in denial that you like to just scroll IG.
Yeah, I'd have to show you. Like very, very rarely do I communicate or message or even really too much see things from people that I'm friends with anymore. Because that's how the algorithm has changed and what I've been looking at.
So if we opened your Instagram right now, and we went to your messages.
Oh, well, messages, but that's not... But that's not like the frequent...
That's stuff you share with your friends, right?
Yeah, but I don't really utilize it that much like that. This would be so vulnerable. There should just be sites where people just open their social media.
Yeah, not that much. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, like almost all of my Instagram is going to be like...
You're not in your messages.
Well, I'm not in my messages because I'm almost never in my messages. And it's a lot of bullshit. You're right. You're right.
Anyway, my point is, everyone's got like a muscle memory like thing that you open. You know, sometimes you open it like a bunch of times. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's all leading back to the muscle memory one for me is Vivino. That's what got us to where we are this morning.
So when you're just sitting there, like let's say today at lunch, I got up and go to the bathroom and you're sitting by yourself and you're like, eh.
Yeah, and every single time I do, I go, there's nothing here for me. I don't need to do this. Just, I'll look for a second. And then I go, what am I, best deals for me? Picked for me? You picked these wines for me?
Well, I mean, what ChatGPT says, if this Burgundy's under 60 or under 80,
I'd be losing money if I didn't buy this.
Yeah, girl math. I don't know if we're allowed to say that, but it's a thing.
Yeah, you know, that is interesting. I heard that for the first time maybe a year ago, and it primarily comes from women.
100%. I only learned it from my wife. She literally says that to me.
But that's like degrading themselves, and I feel like...
But it's done playfully. Like, you know, like I always joke about
saying I don't know how to do math because I'm a girl.
No,
basically.
It's not. No. So now you've misunderstood girl math. The way that I take, we can take a bunch of shit for this. I guess I don't care. So
I'm just repeating what I've heard.
So here's the way that Ash uses it. I guess I don't know other ways. We should ChatGPT this. She'll say girl math when she says like she bought stuff and she's going to go return it, right? And so then she gets that money back and then it's just free play money to spend. She's like, well, no, it's because I returned it. So that wasn't real money. I'm like, I'm confused. It's girl math. Or the age-old thing that I have with her, which apparently she says is common, her friends agree, is like the 99 after the way if I said something is like $8.99 and I'm like, it's $8. Well, it's really $9. But she'll do that with like something, she'll say something is $100. I'm like, it's $199. That's almost twice as much money.
Yeah.
But she just like omits the tens and ones places.
Interesting.
And I call that Ash math.
Ash math. I like that. The return thing, I get where she's coming from because
chips at a casino, basically.
Yes, that's where I was going to go. Chips at a casino, or even your Venmo balance feels different to pay someone from your Venmo balance than to pay from like your checking account or something. You know, like,
it does.
I don't know why, but it does. Anyway,
what are we going to talk about today? Also, you know what's funny is like on all of these episodes, you got to grab people in the first few minutes. So hopefully this is fun. The banter, the talk.
Well, today is going to be especially fun and really interesting because we're doing something we've never done before. We're taking live calls in the studio.
Oh, sweet.
Yep. They've been lighting up this whole time. So we're finally going to get to our first one.
Okay.
All right. This is Nancy from Minnesota.
Hi, Nancy.
Hey, guys. I couldn't help but hear you were talking about girl math.
I find this offensive.
Okay. I was going to ask you. Mm-hmm. We got a little vulnerable on the last episode. I think we've been getting in touch with the feels a little bit more.
We have. I felt personally interrogated in the last episode.
I know. Your eyes have been getting glossy, and I like it. My question...
I love you with the phone up.
Dude, I know I don't like it at all.
I know.
It's like, I just feel like someone could go into labor at any moment.
Exactly.
Someone I'm married to.
Yeah.
I want to know, what is the most important lesson that no one ever taught you?
I actually would say that I have a lot of them. My mind, partially because it's just the way that I think and partially because of what we talk about here, my mind goes to business or entrepreneurship. And I haven't really had mentors. So, well, no, until now. I've had a few people that I have been that I've met along the way that I really look up to, like the folks that are some of our advisors now at Client Giant. But I mean, little backstory for me, I basically started a company. I mean, I had little silly things in high school and before that, but I basically started a company, like my first one within 6 months out of college, where I had funding and I had like a partner, but I didn't really have like a boss. I had to make something from nothing. And then after that, I started an apparel company, started something from nothing, raised a little capital, then started my first tech company, raised capital, like built it up. So kind of like always figuring out as I go. That's why I always talk to you about, like, you know, startups, especially in tech, or not only do you not have a map, or maybe you just kind of have a compass, you kind of have a feel for where you're going, but you're not even sure where the destination is. So I think a lot of the stuff, like almost every lesson that I've learned along the way, I've just had to learn stumbling through it. Like I mean, books, countless books, which we could throw a whole bunch of ones that we recommend up in show notes. But if that doesn't count, then like almost everything I think that I've learned about building a team, leading people, trying to take a vision from zero to life and to whatever, have been not taught.
Yeah, my question was,
You said, what's the biggest one?
what's the biggest lesson that
Nobody ever taught you.
that no one taught you? And you're saying,
So you're saying, what's
And
the
you-
biggest
and-
lesson I've ever learned?
yeah, and you're like,
No one's taught me anything.
I wasn't taught anything. Like, no, I know.
Well, actually, I'll go back on that, I guess, slightly. Even though he wasn't an owner operator until later in life, my dad taught me a lot about dealing with people and being the head of a company. Or like, he has a whole bunch of stories, which would be great, or just basically like,
Good Peter on the podcast.
we really should. Like, one of my favorite ones is that he was at Ocean Pacific, I think it was. Big, huge company, OP, if people remember, in the 80s. And when he got promoted to president, he was all excited and whatever it is. And like literally the first day, the owner walks into his room and goes, "Hey, good morning. How's it feel to be the dumbest guy in the building?" And he's like kind of never forgotten that. So I don't know what the most important lesson that I've ever learned in business is, because if so many of them have been like not taught from somebody else, then you're literally asking me to tell you what I think the most important lesson is that I've ever learned, even if I just confine it to business.
Let's rewind a little bit. So you have been an entrepreneur basically your whole life.
Yeah.
Can you think back to a time you had a W-2 job?
My last W-2 job would have been waiting tables when I was like 22 years old or something. It's the last time that I was like an employee.
Gotcha. You're W-2'd right now. Just kidding.
So dumb.
Okay, so how do you think that's gonna cascade down to the upbringings of Crosby and Wilder, if at all?
Entrepreneurship? Or
Yeah,
just
the fact
the
that-
path that I've had. So, okay.
Yeah, that became your path. Is that a path that you think you'll teach or even discuss?
Yeah, 100%. In fact, I already talked to them about it, but it's like a catch-22, because I've told this to, so through this all, at whatever point, once I had probably been a tech founder or entrepreneur for 5, 6, 7 years, maybe, I started mentoring, you know this, but they don't, mentoring a whole bunch of other tech founders in Southern California, from San Diego to, actually I went to Silicon Valley because the place, Founder Institute, they're fantastic, is based in Silicon Valley. So I would tell people kind of the same things over and over, and you'd see other people making mistakes that were not as far along as you, and I would be with other people like our advisor who were way superior and far ahead and whatever. And one thing that I would constantly tell them is like, you can't, I don't believe anyway, that you can't like want to be an entrepreneur. Like, the way that I would say it is like, it is not a fate that I would wish on anybody. It's different now because obviously I feel like I'm much more established, and we're established with this company and whatnot, but like, it's like an affliction. Like, you are afflicted with this inability to, because part of it is maybe cockiness, I think, but it's like, I was just talking to Ash about this the other day, when I was offered a job when I was in the studio system in film, and because my father-in-law was asking me, what would have happened if you had gone that route instead of this route? And I was like, who knows? Maybe I would have been a studio executive or whatever. And Ash was like, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't have lasted like however long working for somebody and not feeling like you could make a huge difference and you were just a part of a system. So I don't think no matter what I tell Crosby and Wilder, like, they either have it or they don't. They're either kind of, like I said, afflicted with it or they're not. And the reason I say it's amazing to be an entrepreneur, I obviously couldn't do anything else, but it's because it's almost like a sickness. When you're younger, when I was, you're thinking and working 24 hours a day when you can. And all the stress. You're voluntarily saying, hey, anything that goes right, this is another big lesson I would tell people, and I believe anything that goes right with this, I don't want any credit. Credit goes to the people who help make it happen, your employees or whoever. And everything that goes wrong with it, I want all the blame, right? So like you are voluntarily taking on the highest highs and lowest lows. That said, if my kids have something that they're super passionate about and they have the mind to want to like think it through and have a plan and have a vision, and they end up being tenacious and charismatic people, and that can, I say charismatic because I think you need to excite other people. I don't think you can do any of this stuff alone. I would love for them to do it. In fact, I would, I had a bit of a mentor, guy I used to rent office space to, who had been an entrepreneur for forever. And he basically said, I'm not going to send my kids to college, but I'm going to save up the however much money it would be. And if they have an idea, something that they want to do, I'm going to fund their first startup when they're 18 years old, or if they take a gap year and they come back, I'm going to fund that and help them build a business. So if my kids want to do that, I would love it.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I do think entrepreneurship is obviously glorified, very glorified. There's a lot of good that comes from it, not only just from the person who's doing it, but obviously the things you create for society, create jobs, things like that is amazing. Mm-hmm. But it's 1 zillion% not for everyone, nor should it be. It's not something that like I think you necessarily have to advocate for and be like, no, that's exactly what you should do or whatever, right. Because it's just not for, like you said, you try to escape the 40, 50 hour work week and you create 100-hour work week, So yeah, it's definitely a double-edged sword. But yeah, I asked that because obviously with what we do and anyone who's carving their own path, there's not a manual, there's no training guide or anything like that. You're doing things by hopefully finding a mentor, hopefully finding patterns and data of other people that have done things. But at the end of the day, like everything's different. You're totally carving your own path, and there's an element of luck to absolutely everything. So it's interesting to see like what are some of those key lessons that you would, whether it's in life or business or whatever, that you would teach someone else. Like what are things that are extremely valuable to you now that you're like, man, this is something that someone else should know.
Well, as you said that, I was just thinking, I've also never done, I guess an apparel company, but I've also never done something formulaic. I wonder whether some of my perspective about who can and can't be an entrepreneur or should changes if it's like somebody selling widgets, or like we've talked about people that we know that literally have a service business and they're going to sell this service, or they're going to operate their business and provide these services. And the people that they're selling to, they're already getting that service. Like this is something that you're buying. You are going to be doing window washing, or you're going to be doing car wash, or whatever the heck it is. And then it's literally just a matter of, I don't know how to even say that. It's like, but like well, the way I've always done it, mostly in technology, is like, you literally have an idea.
You're trying to be a pioneer.
Yeah, it's pioneering. There's a difference between that, which
versus I'm going to create my own insurance company tomorrow and try and get people to switch from their insurance to my insurance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or there aren't enough dry cleaners in my area. Everyone knows what a dry cleaner is. I'm going to do this and I'm going to market it.
Yeah. Like I would love to open a jazz bar one day.
I love that for you.
Yeah, it'd be great.
But see, then again, I don't even know, because the constant rejection, the pushing boulders uphill, it's all the same. It doesn't matter. Like, let's say you open a jazz bar. That's fantastic. You know that 90-something% of bars and restaurants fail. You know that like you're going to run through a million different scenarios where like the only sure way to not have everything go to zero is to just never give up. Right. So like, I guess there still is that like inborn thing that you have to have. So go back to was that a question or was it rhetorical?
Well, I was asking about like lessons you've learned that maybe weren't directly taught to you. They're taught to you in some way, whether you read them in a book or you learned them on your own from like trial and error or whatever. But like of those lessons, are there any that come to mind where you're like, this is like invaluable. This is stuff that people should know. And maybe I was keeping it broad, but let's go into the world of entrepreneurship and business. Someone listening to this is starting a business or owns a business, whatever it is. Like,
I would say one that we talked about recently is whatever you're doing, and again, I'm only relating this to tech or to things that you're making from scratch, so they're not just like a cookie cutter thing. Whatever you're doing, admit that you're too close to it, and so you cannot be impartial. I used to create this graph for startup founders that was a graph about like the people close to you and their level of honesty with you, right?
Yeah.
And it was literally basically saying like, you ask your mom, you ask your wife or boyfriend or girlfriend or your best friend or whatever it is about this new app that you made or whatever it is. They're all going to say that they love it. Mm-hmm. And whatever they're going to do, you ask somebody that is further away from you, they're going to be more honest. And then it changes based on whether they have to pay for it, whether they're getting it for free. And there's this whole deal. So then that element, but also like whatever makes sense or whatever you're trying to do to make changes in your service or your offering or whatever, it makes sense to you. And you can't assume that it makes sense to anybody else. Like you're too close to it, be honest. So like, for example, every piece of every change that we make in the Client Giant software in the platform, the right thing to do, or especially somebody that's like doing a mobile app, is to have a party, if you will, or an event with 20, 30 people, put them in a room, have them download the app or the software, whatever it is. Don't tell them a fucking thing. Don't be like, okay, well, here's what you do. I want you to, here's what the app does. Here's how, whatever. You need to log in. You need to create your account. Literally, hand it to them, watch them do it. They will sit there, and I've done this for so many different things. They will click on the wrong buttons, the ones that you didn't think, and you'll be sitting there going like, dude, it's so obvious. It's the button is right there.
You throw the weirdest parties.
That's what I say. It's not a party. We would call them a party because we would, give people drinks and get them to be there. But it's literally just a testing party.
Yeah, you want to see what's the consumer behavior. What are people doing naturally without being led what to do? We do that to some extent here when we launch features and we go blast this email out with this like new thing or whatever. So like this is how we think it's going to work.
Yeah.
Don't give anyone a heads up. Just do it and see if anyone interacts with it the way we hope or think they will.
Yep.
And we it's surprising when you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. You didn't do what we thought you were going to do.
Yeah, totally.
Or that didn't work.
Yeah.
And we'll do it. We won't even do it small. Like sometimes we'll do it to 50 or 100 people. Sometimes we'll send it to 1,000 members and be like, here.
Are there ever times where, market research, consumer data, like focus groups, anything like that could say this is wrong and you would say no?
100%.
I have convictions to continue. Where do you draw the line? Because if you're too close to it and it's your baby, that could very quickly be the kiss of death. But on the other hand, you could create a Ford instead of, more horses.
Instead of more horses. Yes, I've done that many times, probably more than not. And a lot of that was like youthful, right? A lot of that was 20 years ago. I'm aging myself. I would say like, no, I understand that, but like, I really disagree. I really think that people are going to react this way or whatever. And sometimes you're wrong. But I don't think that anybody ever did much groundbreaking that is a game changer, like the way Steve Jobs used to talk about. Like,
do you think if our company said yes to more things that customers wanted, primarily branded gifts and swag, that our company would be of a bigger size? And if so, how much bigger?
Of a bigger size, meaning just like make more money?
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, we've talked about this. There's millions of dollars we've turned down by saying that, yeah, we don't do that. But it's about longevity. So like we believe that we're right, that the longer play is, okay, if somebody comes to you and says, I want to send out all of these things and I want you to blast my brand all over it, they'll pay for that. And if their goal and expectation is that absolutely nothing comes of it, meaning like they're not improving relationships, they're not getting tons of thank yous, they're not evolving the entire relationship with those people, it's not even meant to do that, and they don't give a shit, then fine. But our belief is that do it the way that we're telling you, and you will become a consistent member or customer of ours for the next forever. Mm-hmm. Because you see results from it. So the challenge for us is that people put us in a box with things that they're doing that I don't even think are intended to have a result.
Yeah, I think that there's endless ways that someone can make money. And so even if you said, institute this tomorrow. You'll make a bunch more money. Like the company will grow, whatever. It's like, cool. That's not why we started this company. You know, we didn't start this company like, yeah, obviously to make money, but like not because we wanted to be the best swag store in town. You know, and I think there's tons of things out there like that, and I don't knock those types of people, right? Where you're like, you know, where there's a hole in the market, X, or you know, this termite company could be better if it was like this, so I'm going to create a termite company. You're like, all those things are great, but going to what we said earlier of like, you know, how much work you pour into it, whatever, like, I don't think I could do 100 hours a week as a termite company. or as like a swag company, you know, like it's not interesting work to me.
Yeah, I think there's a very different feeling that goes into services that are recurring services or recurring revenue businesses. So like we always teeter on this, like we believe that we're a SaaS company. There are physical elements to some of the things that we offer, but primarily it's software that drives absolutely everything. And some people use the system in ways and don't even have physical things that go out with it, right? And that's becoming even more common with how we're evolving. So to think of something like if you're a merch company or if you're a swag company, you're literally like, I just need to sell more customers on having me put the logo on this thing. You're constantly having to go out and get another purchase. It's just orders. That's never really, it's not how we're set up. It's never like interested us. It's sort of like provide something that shows so much value that the person that their account grows, their business grows with us and for themselves. So like the way you think about stuff like that is very different. Yeah. But a lot of times people don't understand that when we say no to big swaths of business, that is just not what we're interested in doing. But I mean, a lot of that is also because we're in the education business, honestly. We're trying to teach people why to do one thing and not another, and to take a strategic approach to this. And that there are, by the way, like we'll tell people there are times to put your brand on something, that it's okay. It needs to be the exception and not the rule. And it needs to be in certain relationships and not in others. And it needs to be timed properly. You can't expect that a brand new hire like has any kind of loyalty or connection to your brand before they start or the day that they start or something, you know?
That was helpful.
What kind of lessons have you learned, at least in the last, because I mean, do you consider entrepreneurial, or do you consider somebody an entrepreneur who is a real estate agent?
I mean, being a real estate agent is like probably the midpoint between what we do as like create something from nothing and like opening a Subway, you know?
Yeah.
Because like a franchise model is like, no, there is a playbook. This is exactly what you do.
Yeah.
This is exactly what your P&L should look like. This is what you should be budgeted for. Here are the signs. Here's everything.
And not just that, we're going to provide everything to you.
Yeah. Here's how much it's going to cost. A real estate agent, similar in the aspect of like, here's what a lot of people do to get business. Here are the contracts that you pay to use. And there's kind of a system there. But at the end of the day, like, nothing matters at all unless you get a client, and people buy people. So it's like, what are you doing to get clients?
It's actually an interesting way to think about it. If I put myself in the mind frame, if I was a real estate agent tomorrow, because like it's I don't know another way but to like reinvent the wheel, just because it's the types of businesses that I've always done. So like, for example, where recently, I'm digressing, but I'm on a committee for an event at our club that is like, it's a thing that's been done it's a golf tournament that's been done every single year for the last 60 years or 70 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
They put me on the committee, and the first couple of meetings, it was like all these ideas. They're like, oh yeah, I'd run with that. You do this, you do this. And eventually, like, I started to say things. They're like, look, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. I'm like, I'm always trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
So like, what would somebody do? And maybe this actually is kind of what you did. That's
exactly what I did.
It's like, okay, you're a real estate agent. Certain things are provided to you. There are certain accepted practices to acquire new clients, to do the contracts, to do whatever those are. And I would say that like almost 100%, 99% of people just follow what's always been done. Here are the things. But if you just completely started, if you said, like, took 30 steps back and said, okay, what I need to do is I need to, let's say, help a person buy a house, or I need to help a person sell a house, and forget anything. If you never knew anything that had ever been done, what would you create?
Yeah.
Like, and he was like, I need to go get more people interested in possibly using me to list their house. What would you create? Like, if you never knew that people did door knocking and people did flyers and people did, what would you do?
I mean, ultimately, if you look, that's what real estate agents are trying to do. They're trying to grab people's attention which way they possibly can. Arguably add value where they can. I'll host your garage sale. We're doing a food drive. We're doing it's like, okay, you're making a presence in the community. Like, I'll see your name a little bit more or whatever. But a lot of it's just look at me, look at me, look at me. Like, look at me as much as possible.
Yeah. And maybe we talked about it here, but remember when I gave a couple of our friends who are real estates in the local area the idea of like, hey, get a storage unit, have all this shit that parents need to use. So here's the idea. Someone take it because our people aren't.
Everyone take it.
Yeah, everybody take it. So the idea is, okay, my neighborhood is filled with a bunch of people with kids between the ages of 2 and 13. Maybe they're a little older. They're all throwing birthday parties. They're all having people over to their house and doing stuff all summer. Everyone's renting bounce houses. Everyone's renting slides. Everyone's doing all this stuff. Just be their resource. Don't charge them for it. Have a storage unit. Have all that shit in there. And by the way, you don't even need, people are, first thing they're going to think is like, oh, cool, I'll put my face and my number on the slide.
Yeah, please, God, don't do that.
Don't do that.
No one wants that shit out there.
What you want, and here's like subliminality. There's so many themes in my entire career that are about subliminality. People are just so over it. We can go into that. That should be a topic. Play this out. I'm having a birthday party for Wilder, right? And we want a bounce house. And
Am I invited?
Of course you are.
Okay.
Will you come?
That's
beside the point. Yeah. Okay. So let's call out Chad Engel, real estate agent in the area, good friend of ours. The way that a real estate agent thinks about this is, I'll put my face and my number on the side, and I'll put the name of my company on there, and then all the parents that are there watching the kids bounce around, they'll see that and they'll be like, oh, cool, whatever. That's not where it's at. Where it's at is, I'm at my kid's party. I've got 20 parents there with their sons and daughters and whatever, and we're mingling, we're talking, we're drinking, we're whatever. And in conversation, without fail, I will bring up, dude, you know where I got this bounce house? Chad, the guy, the real estate in the area, you've seen his stuff, whatever.
Or someone will ask.
That's how that happens. And when I say, yeah, it's just a service that he does in the area. He just wants to be helpful, and he has all this stuff. If you ever need something, whatever. Oh, you don't know Chad? Let me connect you right now if you ever need anything for your kid's birthday. And it started with, I reached out to this guy to use a slide for my kid's birthday, and it ends with, he just sold my house.
Yeah, totally. I mean, they're like, oh my God, that's so sick. So he helped you buy this house? You're like, no, my buddy Jay did, but he's got 6 slides.
You're not paying commission? What are you, fucking crazy? Yeah, so, but you get the idea. It's like, think outside the box. So like, look at that as an investment. Let's say he spends a few $1,000s a year on a storage unit, and he has a one-time cost of picking these things up for a few $1,000s. It's like, it's no brainer. But it's illustrating, try to do something.
The third line is like, always add, like Tony Robbins says, add more value than the competition's adding. Just add more value.
And not just more, different.
Yeah.
Like, I would say that everybody, no matter what your industry, no matter what you're doing, if you had like the ability to have the Men in Black come down and use that little thing on you and not have any previous information, not have any preconceived notions of what other people do in your industry to accomplish the things that you're trying to do, and you started from complete scratch,
would you still choose the things you're doing today?
Yeah.
That's the exercise.
That's the exercise. Yeah. But like, get out there, like get like so out there. What if I have no idea what that would be, but like you could throw some, and there's no bad ideas. Like, I think people are really bad at, this is like ideation. I know you hate that word. But this is like brainstorming. Like, there's no bad idea. Say something ridiculous. Like, dude, go out and buy a DeLorean and have it made to look like, how sick would that be?
That happened.
Yeah.
There's a friend of mine in Fullerton that did that.
I mean, just because people would talk about it, be like, oh, the guy, it's the guy with the DeLorean.
Yeah, totally. He'd grab that attention.
Yeah, grab the attention.
Sorry we couldn't get to the phones today. Everything's been
the phone lines are down. They've been overloaded. So it just
no, the phone lines are up. They're not down. They're up. They're lit. Dude, they're lit up.
Oh, we couldn't get there.
It's gotta be unified front. Yeah, let's get some landline.
As always, like, subscribe, hit the notification button, send us some comments, ask us some questions, give us some scenarios that you need help with.